the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Green Bay Packers. James Robinson on the Jaguars side has just been phenomenal. This is the Packers matchup, which we know, talk about teams who can't stop the run. The Packers are right up there at number one. So James Robinson, you got to love him this game. They've been leaning on him. They've been leaning on him all season long, but now, especially with Jake Luton, the rookie quarterback, they're going to continue to lean on him quite a bit. So James Robinson comes in as our RB3 of the week. He actually has a pretty good price there on DraftKings, too, if you ever want to go check him out there and play on DraftKings. Make sure you check out the DC's DFS Challenge Tournament that's available to you guys every single week. We do a giveaway at the end of the month for the people who win. You check that out on Saturdays at 9:30. But James Robinson has a pretty good price there, $6,800. So this is a guy that we expect to finish the top 3 running backs, and that's a pretty good price for him there, too. So obviously, continue to play James Robinson. I know there's been some talk about, do you sell high on him because his playoff schedule doesn't shape up great? You wonder if teams will start to key on him a little bit more given the rookie quarterback situation. But Jake Luton actually impressed me enough. Now, it was Houston. It was a great matchup. Houston didn't even have Roby. They're the only cornerback who actually has, stands a chance to be able to protect against anything. So take it with a grain of salt that the fact that he had a decent performance last week. You could easily see him implode against the Green Bay Packers, who do have a healthy Jaire Alexander back for this matchup after a little mini bye here. But he played well enough. He was able to throw the deep ball well enough, and I think that's the big factor, is that teams are not going to be able to creep up necessarily on him because he does have the arm strength, and unlike a Gardner Minshew, at least not on a consistent basis this year anyway, he actually looked for DJ Chark as his number one read when he dropped back to pass and went deep with him and got some explosive plays off of him. I mean, the first drive of the game was a big play to DJ Chark for a touchdown. Chark actually finally led the way in targets. Now, some people want to say a reason for that was Laviska Shenault was hurt in that game with a hamstring issue, and that's true. And Shenault actually sounds like he might be back within a week, so it wasn't a major hamstring issue by any stretch of the means. He's already back practicing on Wednesday, expect him to practice again today. But the fact was Chark was his first read. That's what I look for out of these quarterbacks when it comes to their number one wide receivers. When we're trying to determine when a new quarterback comes in, what receiver is going to be his go-to guy, it's all about where does he go with his eyes first at the snap. That's what it's all about. And when talking about a rookie, normally speaking, especially a 6th-round rookie, they're going to lock on to whoever that number one target is more times than not. Every time he dropped back, and rightfully so, and it should be this way, DJ Chark was the first guy he was looking for. That's where his eyes went, to that side of the field. Does he have a chance to get open? If not, he'll come off of him, but that's where he's looking to go first. So I think Chark actually has a healthy, consistent amount of targets heading his direction as long as Jake Luton continues to be the starter. And the news on that is, 1, Gardner Minshew is not healthy enough to come back anyway, but 2, it really sounds like Doug Marrone has no interest in bringing Gardner Minshew back as starting quarterback this year. 0. None. Jake Luton very well might, as long as he plays competently, very well might be the starter the rest of the way, which I think means actually good things for DJ Chark based on the way he played, based on who he was looking for out there. So Chark comes in at wide receiver 13 for us. I know he's going to be matched up against Jaire Alexander. I know Alexander has been great when he's been healthy so far this season. There's no doubt about that. But Chark is a dynamic talent. Chark is a budding superstar in this league. He's an athletic phenom. I think he's going to get the opportunities to make some big plays in here, because here's the thing about Green Bay. Because they can't stop the run, they will tend to play some zone off of run blitzing. When they do that, and the Jaguars decide to play action once they're in that, when they get that kind of play call from the defensive side, well, Alexander's not going to be matched up one-on-one necessarily with Chark in that situation. So Chark's going to have some chances to hit a deep post on a play action, along with, I think, a healthy target floor in this game. So Chark comes in at wide receiver 13 for us. I think you can play him with a ton of confidence. And if you're looking to buy low on Chark, while it might be a little bit harder after last week's performance, people still might look at Jake Luton and say, like, well, it was one performance, and might think of themselves as selling Chark high. Take advantage of that. Obviously, make sure you're not giving up anything of too much of value. Make sure if you're buying low on him, make sure you're actually buying low on him. But he's a guy I want to target because I think he sets up very well for the rest of the season. Like I said, Chenault, we expect him to play, but Keelan Cole, Laviska Chenault, I'm not playing him in this game. I need to see more out of Jake Luton and where he's going to be at as far as spraying the ball around before we start to talk about really anybody else on the Jacksonville Jaguars as far as a fantasy standpoint. So James Robinson, DJ Chark, after that, it's kind of a wait-and-see game. So we flip it over to the Packers. Great matchup for everybody involved. We know that. It's a Jaguar. They can't stop anything. Rodgers, our number 2 quarterback on the week. Aaron Jones, who practiced in full yesterday, 100% healthy, good to go. We expect him to get a heavy workload in this game. Great matchup, RB6 on the week. Devontae Adams, our wide receiver 1, because at this point, I don't know how he can't be. Alan Lazard. Now, we're still following the practice reports when it comes to Alan Lazard and where he's going to be at and everything like that. But Alan Lazard is ranked as my wide receiver 42. He is a possible flex play. Now, in this game against Jacksonville, I don't know how many guys the Packers are really going to need to get involved. I think if you just, if you dominate with Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams, that probably would be enough. But the fact that Alan Lazard traveled with the team last week, I do think there's a real shot he's going to play here. It's a good matchup. They might take some moments in this game to try to get him up to snuff, try to get that rapport back, because they need a second wide receiver. There was a reason why they were inquiring at the very least about trading for Will Fuller. They recognize that they need that second wide receiver. They want to be a true Super Bowl contending team. Somebody else besides Devontae Adams is going to have to step up for them, because otherwise you're going to be too one-dimensional. Playoff teams will take that away, because playoff teams will actually game plan. Alan Lazard, I like his value as a low-end wide receiver 3 as a flex play the rest of the season. And I think it's possible that you might be able to play him as such in this game. We talked about Corey Davis at wide receiver 44. I have Alan Lazard at wide receiver 42. When you're looking at guys who could be possible flex fill-ins, depending on what you have available to you in your roster construction, depending on your bye weeks, then yeah, I would actually rather have Alan Lazard if he plays than a Corey Davis as a nice example for you guys. So keep that in mind. But I'm very excited to see that. Robert Tonyan, tight end 12. I feel like I'm going to say this for all the tight ends for the most part, but don't feel great about it at tight end 12, but has to be. I know last week was really weird. They had like a 3-man rotation going on at the tight end position. I don't know why that was. I mean, we had Robert Tonyan kind of ranked on the expectation last week that Aaron Jones was not going to play, and then he wound up actually playing. So that kind of threw everything out of whack to some degree. They didn't have to force feed anybody against the 49ers because they pretty much had that game in control from start to finish. Tonyan is still the lead tight end. He still got most of the snaps. He still got most of the routes run. It's a hit or miss situation, but it's Jacksonville. That was the first game I really saw an even 3-man rotation at the tight end split. I think we'll see Tonyan, kind of take a little bit step back to what he was beforehand, which was more of the lead guy. So he comes in at tight end 12. There's a possibility he scores a touchdown. There's a possibility that he gets 5 to 7 targets in this game in a good matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's what it comes down to. Does the matchup and the potential volume heading in your direction, do they collide in a way that you could have some value? And that's kind of how it's kind of how you analyze the tight end position right now, unfortunately. So Tonyan is a tight end 12. Don't feel great about it. Going to be a low floor on the simple fact that he could very well just not be part of the game plan, like he wasn't part of the game plan last week against San Francisco 49ers. But he's a better tight end to take a chance on than a lot of other guys out there right now, like a Jonnu Smith, for instance. There's at least more of a chance he'll see more targets than Jonnu Smith has. We'll move on to the next game. We'll talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. Talk about the New York Giants. NFC East matchups are very hard to rank. They're very hard to bet. They're very hard to figure out what your expectation really should be. Because here's the problem with the Philadelphia Eagles. They're getting reinforcements back. Jalen Reagor's back. Miles Sanders is back. Dallas Goedert's back. Hell, even Alshon Jeffrey might be back this week. He's been practicing in full. So while they're getting all these reinforcements back, I don't know what it is. It's a mental thing, but they have this capacity where they're just going to play down to their opponent. Kind of similar with the Steelers. Steelers kind of do this too sometimes. Where instead of just playing the way they should and taking care of the easy opponents, which they should, they'll play down to them. They'll make it hard on themselves. Dallas Cowboys game was a great example. Carson Wentz had to go into save my team mode, put the team on my back, put the team on my shoulders, and let us get us the victory against the Dallas Cowboys. What? I know people are going to say, like, well, the Steelers are the same thing. And that's kind of why I mentioned the Steelers, too. They do that sometimes, too. They'll play down their opponent. It's kind of a similar situation. They both have these mindsets. It's weird. I think there's a chance here the Eagles might play down to the Giants in this game because from a talent standpoint, it's not close. From a coaching standpoint, it's not close. Jason Garrett's terrible. Eagles should win this game. Eagles should play well. From a fantasy standpoint, there's a lot of options to go with. Carson Wentz, I believe, is a top 9 quarterback this week. With him getting his weapons back, with the way he's been using his legs. The Giants defense, there seems to be this narrative out there all of a sudden that the Giants defense, like, oh, it's actually pretty good, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, no, all of my fantasy guys that I had valued high have all done pretty well against the Giants. It's not a defense I'm worried about. Do they have some nice pieces? Yeah. Overall, the levee breaks in the second half almost every single time. Wentz is the top 9 quarterback. He gets Jalen Reagor this game. We don't have him in the top 36. He's a boomer bust option. Very risky one at that. Because all the pass catchers, all the wide receivers, I should say, are kind of a risk this week for the Philadelphia Eagles. Travis Fulgham is the only one we have ranked inside the top 36. We have him at 34. The reason everybody's a risk against the Giants is because of Alshon Jeffrey. We don't know what this rotation is going to turn into. We don't know what the playing time is going to turn into. We don't know how the Philadelphia Eagles are going to view this as far as who they want starting. It's hard to imagine, and that's why we still have him ranked inside the top 36, that Travis Fulgham would suddenly go back to being in the bench. But how are the Philadelphia Eagles going to play this? Are they going to go with, because Alshon's going to be, if he's full, they're paying him too much money. They have to see if maybe they can trade him in the offseason or whatever. He's going to have to play. And there's a decent chance that he starts. Now, he might be on a pitch count his first game back, so we might not even get the data that we're looking for this week. But generally speaking, with him back on the field, I have to imagine Alshon Jeffrey's going to be a starter. One, Wentz has always liked him a lot, especially in the red zone. Two, like I said, you're paying him too much money. So Alshon Jeffrey will be a thing. But is it going to be Alshon starting over Travis Fulgham in that role? Or are you going to go with more of a big receiver set, especially without not having Zach Ertz, where you go bigger body at the wide receiver position instead of having 2 tight ends to lean on, with Alshon Jeffrey and Travis Fulgham, and sprinkle in Jalen Reagor with Greg Ward in the slot? Or is it Alshon Jeffrey, you keep Jalen Reagor on the outside so he can play the Deshaun Jackson role, the wide receiver who's constantly on the field to take the top off, and keep Greg Ward in the slot, and therefore Travis Fulgham winds up being the odd man out? These are all possible scenarios that we're really not going to know until we actually see it play out on the field. And that's why I take a little bit of a cautious approach when it comes to the pass catchers of the Philadelphia Eagles. Do I think Travis Fulgham is very good? Yes. Do I think Travis Fulgham should be the future? Yes. Do I think there's any reason why Alshon Jeffrey should be starting over him? No. But again, that's applying logic. We haven't seen these coaches use logic a lot this year, especially, I have to say, in a lot of situations. So that's why I'm a little bit worried about this as far as pass catchers go. I think we're going to have to wait to see this play out. The one guy I feel really confident in as far as pass catchers go for the Philadelphia Eagles is Dallas Goedert. Tight end 4 for us this week. Real chance that Dallas Goedert is somebody that if you were able to pick him up before he came back, because he got dropped in a lot of leagues out there, real chance this guy's a top 5 tight end the rest of the way. Given the tight end landscape, given how much the Philadelphia Eagles love to throw the ball to the tight end in the first place, given how Zach Ertz is still going to be out for a few weeks, and even when he comes back the way he played before, I don't see any reason why he would usurp back the starting spot over Dallas Goedert or the target share, frankly. So Dallas Goedert very well might be a top 5 tight end the rest of the way. I know his first game back wasn't super happy with 1 catch, 15 yards, but we know he's going to get a healthy target share. We know he's going to be involved in this offense, and we know he's going to be involved, especially in the red zone. And he's probably one of the guys I feel the most safe about as far as the tight end position goes moving forward than really anybody else out there. So Dallas Goedert, tight end 4. We really like him a lot this week. Miles Sanders is going to be back. He's practicing in full. He's good to go. We have him as an RB1. We have him as 8 overall on the week. So we feel really good about Miles Sanders in his first game back. Move on to the Giants side of the ball. Not a lot to be excited about. Not a lot to target in this situation. Evan Ingram, he's a top 5 tight end for us this week, believe it or not. Look, he's been disappointing as far as his overall production, his overall efficiency. But Evan Ingram has been targeted a lot. They have done pretty much everything in their power to keep him involved. And to his credit, he's stayed healthy this season. Now, it hasn't led to the production that you would have thought it would have with him staying healthy and the way that he has been utilized in this offense, or at least the opportunities he's been given. This is still Jason Garrett we're talking about. So even when you get opportunities, it doesn't mean you're always in the best position to succeed. I think you can use the entire Giants offense as an example of that this season.